Hello, everybody. Welcome to my live today. We're going to do an early live today. So, what are we going to talk about? And happy Tuesday, everybody. No, it's happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. What are we going to talk about today? Well, as many of you know, Trump just became president. So, on the first day, he issued a bunch of executive orders, but I'm here to discuss one of them and let you know legally why it's just not going to work and why it's not just going to happen, because I'm getting a lot of worried calls, terrified calls from people who are here legally, who have authorization by immigration, and their pregnant spouses are about to have kids, and they think that the kids are not going to be U.S. citizens. So what I'll do is I'll discuss some of that, let you know procedurally what realistically can and can't happen, and my thoughts on the matter as an immigration attorney who's a certified specialist in immigration law with 30 years plus experience. Okay. So, and I'll see if I can answer questions at the end. Okay? We'll see what happens. So let's get into it. So here's the bottom line of what the executive order stated. That any child who's born in the U.S. from parents, for example, who are here on H-1B, who are here legally, and certainly who are not here legally, will not be considered U.S. citizens. Okay. That's the premise of what the order said. Okay. Now, as I'm sure most of you know, if you are born in the U.S., you're a U.S. citizen. Okay. As of today, there's one very small exception to that. If you happen to be here on a diplomatic visa, G or an A, and then have a kid, then that child's not a U.S. citizen. But that's the only realistic exception. So I want to talk about why you don't really need to fear that this is going to come about. And I can understand why people fear it, okay? I mean, especially people from other countries who are here. You have the President of the United States sign some executive order, and they think that's how it's going to be. So let me discuss a little bit procedurally what has occurred. So we have, as backed by the 14th Amendment of the United States, the right and the law that if you're born inside the United States, you're a U.S. citizen. It's not conditioned upon anything. I mean, I'm not kidding. If a woman is 9 months pregnant, hops on a plane from Romania or wherever, goes into the U.S. for 6 hours and has the baby and then leaves, the baby's a U.S. citizen, okay? That's the law. So, first of all, understanding that it's enshrined in the U.S. Constitution under the 14th Amendment, minus anything else, which I'm going to discuss anything else, but minus anything else, you have the executive branch, which is, the president doing an executive order, basically saying something absolutely contradictory to what is enshrined in the Constitution. So even if we're not talking about this, but anything, the president does not have that power. Okay? Now, I knew, as did pretty much every immigration lawyer in the United States, that the moment that Trump comes into office, he's going to just go hog wild and try to do everything he can, against immigrants and so forth. And it's just a matter of using the tools that we have to properly fight it. It's not a matter of getting angry or getting mad. It's a matter of knowing what the law is and how to fight it. Okay? So I could give another example. I mean, you know how the First Amendment, freedom of speech, I mean, what he did is pretty much one step below him doing another executive order saying there no longer will be a First Amendment right in the United States. That is how severe the executive order claiming that people born in the United States under now certain conditions are not U.S. citizens. I mean, you don't have to go to law school and be a lawyer to know, I'm using the First Amendment example now, that a president of the United States cannot unilaterally, by executive order, vacate a constitutional principle. Okay? I mean, that's just clear. So now the question is, what to do about such an executive order? Because I am telling you, there were a lot of scared people that called me yesterday. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. It's all over. Okay, which is why I'm doing this. So what do we do? Well, it's almost humorous, the first thing that was done. Already the first thing that was done. You know how I just told you that, pretty much every immigration lawyer kind of knew what he was going to do? It was kind of, forecasted, and, it's obvious he's going to do everything he can against immigrants. 22 attorney generals. Okay, you know what an attorney general is. They are the highest ranking law enforcement official of a particular state. 22 of them signed on to a lawsuit less than 24 hours after Trump made his executive order suing him, stating it was unconstitutional. Okay. I mean, you knew it was going to happen. Okay. You knew it was going to happen, but even I was surprised that the 22 attorneys general and the whole lawsuit was ready to rock and roll. I mean, it was obviously prepared before the executive order was even done. Okay. And they probably put some final touches on it, based on a little wording of an executive order here, or, a little wording there to change the lawsuit. But the lawsuit was already prepared and ready to be filed the moment the executive order was issued. Now, granted, it wasn't filed the exact same day. They did wait to the next day. They did. Okay. So they waited to the next day. And it was filed in Massachusetts. Okay. So another thing which they did, which was pretty smart, of course, is it was filed in a jurisdiction where the judges are more likely to lean towards constitutional democratic principles rather than the, authoritarian type government that he wants to make it into. So the lawsuit, of course, will go forward. And I haven't even had a chance to read the lawsuit yet. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be my pleasure reading for lunch, okay? But I can guarantee you that in addition to the lawsuit, they filed an injunction, a request for an injunction, okay? Meaning that they would ask the court, say, look, this absolutely can't be done, okay? This is against the Constitution, and we want and need you, the judge, to issue an injunction to temporarily stop this from going into effect until the trial comes about and until you make a final ruling on the merits of the case. Okay? And just as a aside here, I see some comments coming in, And, it's the typical comments. They'll say, well, liberals think like you do type thing. It has nothing to do with liberal being or conservative. It had nothing to do with that. It doesn't. It has to do with what's in the Constitution and what's not in the Constitution. Okay? The very fact, for example, that these comments come in and say, you're a liberal and you always think like that and you're crying over spilled milk and all that, you're expressing your First Amendment rights because you have that right. I would guarantee you that if you were afraid to speak that and afraid to say that because First Amendment rights were taken back, you wouldn't be saying liberal conservative. You were saying you have the right to speak because it's part of the Constitution, okay? So likewise. So I suspect that the judge will issue relatively quickly an injunction, which will, of course, mean that anyone born in the U.S. will remain to be a U.S. citizen until the merits, which, again, I foresee that when the merits come up, the lawsuit is going to, be successful. I mean, even if the judge thought that there was merit to the executive order itself doesn't have the authority to do what it's doing. Okay, it would need congressional action and it would need to be passed into law, the whole thing. That's why there's separation of powers. Okay, so I have three different separate, legislative powers, executive powers, and judicial. Okay, so if somebody comes to me, for example, and says, "Look, my son was just born." And it's terrible. I can't believe he's not a U.S. citizen. What can you do about it? Well, of course I'm going to bring the lawsuit, show that, individually, show that it can't happen, that it's unconstitutional, and it'll be at the U.S. District Court in the jurisdiction of where we are. And I can tell you, even if that goes down and fails, it'll be appealed to the appellate court. And, everything goes on with that. And if that goes down, it's going to go up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Either way, this is all going to go up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay? No matter who wins or loses in the U.S. District Court and the appellate court, it doesn't matter. Whoever wins or loses, one way or another, it's eventually going to get up to the Supreme Court. Okay? And whether the Supreme Court takes it on an expedited basis or not is anyone's guess. But ultimately, it'll get up there. So then the question will be, with a conservative Supreme Court, 6 conservatives, 3 liberals, whether they will agree that Trump has the executive authority to basically override the Constitution. That's the bottom line. And if the justices, conservative or not, want to hold up any area of law, want to show that there is law, they won't let this stand, okay? I can't usually get on and say with such certainty what's going to happen, okay, really. I mean, I can't guarantee it, but I can't say with such certainty as I am with this that it's going to go down, okay? And so that's the way it works. That's what's nice being in America, because there's democracy and, there's the legal system, and you can, if something happens like this, you go through the whole process to fight it. And it might be a year from now, might be 2 years, might be 6 months, who knows, before it's up to the Supreme Court and before there's a decision. I suspect it'll be at least a year to a year and a half before it gets, struck down. And this isn't the only thing. Obviously, there'll be a lot of different lawsuits. And I know that this one big lawsuit that was coming out, that just came out, obviously that will direct a great deal of how this thing happens. But that doesn't mean that there's not going to be a bunch of other lawsuits all around the country that will go forward, okay? You just can't unilaterally take a constitutional right. So this is what I wanted to explain. So don't be so afraid because the order came out that's the way it's going to be, really. There's a lot of tools in the chest, and there's a lot of avenues to be taken, and there's the law, and there's the Constitution. Okay, and all of that ultimately is going to get this particular law struck down. So don't worry so much about this. Don't go crazy about it, because the fight is on. Okay, and if you happen to want to do your own individual fight and not wait for the big one in Massachusetts, you have that right. There's nothing stopping you from going to court, fighting, and getting the rights of your child, who is a U.S. citizen, protected, because the president cannot take away citizenship rights of your child. Okay, so that's the bottom line. So I wanted to get this out to let people know. Okay, so hopefully I made it clear. I could go on procedurally all the stuff that's going to happen, but overall, that's the message I wanted to convey. All right, so let's see what questions, if any, we have today. If we have any of these nice comments calling me a liberal, well, I guess I am. All right, let's see. So I hope everybody's doing well today. Let me just scroll down and see. Oh, UK 123456. Hey, I can remember that name. Just got the #1 gifter badge. Thank you. Let's see. So this is where I go down and I make sure if there are any questions. I know there might not be a lot of questions because you were enthralled with my speech here. Oh, wait, I have a question. Do you do student visas? Well, my firm prepares petitions to apply for student visas. I mean, when you do student visas, the only one who issues student visas are the consulates. So we can prepare it all, okay? It takes a lot more than just saying you're going to go to school, okay? There's a lot of stuff you have to prove. You have to prove you intend on going back to your country once you're done. You have to prove you have the financial resources, that you're not going to, fall out of status, all kinds of stuff, okay? Naomi got the #2 gifter badge. Thank you, Naomi. Okay, let's see. Let's see what else we have. I'm just scrolling down here. Be patient with me. Okay. So here's someone who I'm sure never went to law school who says the Supreme Court will decide. Although you're right about that. The Supreme Court will decide. So your 2 cents, well, I don't know if it's 2 cents or not. It's my opinion, okay? And it doesn't matter. Everybody's opinion matters, Marquette. Okay, let's see. Oh, USMC Creator got the #1 gifter badge. Appreciate it. Okay. Well, here's a statement. Anyone can be a TikTok lawyer. Well, I wouldn't call myself a TikTok lawyer. I'd call myself a lawyer on TikTok. It just depends how you want to word it. Well, Colin Jace took over the #1 gifter badge position. Okay, let's see. Is it safe to travel internationally as a green card holder during the Trump administration? I can tell you that the law is yes. Okay, it's no problem. I can't guarantee that it'll not issue some other, completely off-the-wall executive order that we're not even contemplating now, that does something that might make it difficult for you to get back, okay? I'm not saying that'll happen, and if for anyone else, I would say, obviously don't worry, but keep in mind that the law right now protects you. You're a green card holder, assumably you're not inadmissible. You should be able to leave and come as you go. What I would do if I were you, to make it doubly safe, is get an immigration attorney, not exactly on call, but ready, just in case. Don't leave without having seen an immigration attorney who essentially has your back. So if something happens, if some crazy order comes out that changes things, that attorney can go into quick action and do what's necessary to get you back and to fight while you're in the country, okay? I mean, that's how it is. So, again, I really don't think you have to worry at this point, but just have an attorney ready to help you just in case, okay? That'll give you some peace of mind while you're, in the Bahamas on vacation, okay? Let's see. Let me go down, see if we have any other. Well, my name was waiting for me to speak on this. Appreciate it. Hello, I have a question. If someone's from Spain and came here on a visa and their visa got expired. Well, technically, that's not a question, that's a statement. But I assume what you're asking is if they're here and they don't have status, what can they do? And that depends, okay? I need to know what kind of visa they came on. I'm assuming, probabilistically, you came on a B2, which is a visitor visa. Although, technically, you don't need that from Spain. You would come on a, visa waiver, which means you might not be a Spanish citizen. So I need to know what kind of visa you came on. I need to know how long it's expired, because I need to know if you're subject to the 3 or 10-year bar. I need to know if you qualify to adjust any other grounds. Okay, how long ago did this happen? Are you married to a U.S. citizen now? Do you have any other forms? So there's ways, but I definitely need more information. Okay, Gamash got the number 2 gifter badge. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Okay. And yes, you're correct. The lawsuit's already been filed. That was the whole what I was saying. So it's ready to rock and roll. Okay. This user got the number 2 gifter badge, but you have a really tough name to remember. User 5845461403667. You should change your name so it's easier. You think I'm still able to get my passport? Well, assuming that first of all, if you're a U.S. citizen, by law, you're able to get a U.S. passport. Whether you're a U.S. citizen through naturalization or a U.S. citizen by birth. Okay, nothing has changed that. Okay, and I know that you fear that that's the case. So nothing has changed that. But given I said that, if you qualify to get the passport, you might want to apply for it sooner than later. Okay? All right, let's see. Ronald got the number 2 gifter badge. Thank you. And Lone Wolf said if they came here illegally, they have no constitutional rights. That is an untrue statement. I'll do another video on what constitutional rights they do have, but, that's how it is. Well, Lone Wolf, you got the number 3 gifter badge. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Let's see. What about the Muslim ban? Well, the Muslim ban was the first Trump one. Okay, called Trump one. So there's no Muslim ban as of yet. We'll see what happens. Okay. What about asylum seekers processing through USCIS? Well, as of right now, the procedure is as it is. Okay, now that obviously might change. So I would say keep your eyes open. Okay. And if things do change and if the procedures for claiming asylum have changed, I will, of course, let you know. But as of right now, procedurally, it's the same as it was before Trump took presidency. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, I think this is a follow-up on a question earlier about the person who came here from Spain and overstayed. She's been here for 3 years and has applied for the I-130, but she needs to leave the country. Well, okay. So what you can tell by this is the I-130 is like, husband, wife, or mother, son, whatever, the family. It just shows the relationship. It doesn't deal with admissibility or inadmissibility. It doesn't make someone qualified to adjust. So I need to know who the petitioner is. Now, let's say that the person's been here for 3 years, applied for the I-130, and doesn't qualify to adjust. They may qualify for an I-601A waiver, which is the provisional waiver of inadmissibility. So they might still have to leave, but they might not have to leave for very long if the provisional waiver is approved. Or let's say they came here on an F1 and that expired. Then they're not subject to the 10-year bar, the 3-year bar, because they're not unlawfully present. And therefore, they can just leave and come back once the consulate processing goes through. Okay? Okay, your boyfriend is on an international student visa, which is ongoing and legal. Is he at risk? Well, I mean, if he's on an F1, as of right now, there's nothing that has changed that. Okay? Ask me that question in a week, we'll see. But as of right now, there's nothing that has changed that. If he's maintaining his status and he's not inadmissible in any other way, then he's fine. Okay? All right, let's see. All right. Is it too late for advanced parole? Okay, well, it's not. I mean, advanced parole can be issued on many different types of petitions, but as of right now, I would be very hesitant to tell someone to go out of the country, even if they have advanced parole approved. Because understand, earlier question said, is it safe to travel with a green card? Well, advanced parole is what you get essentially when you're waiting for the green card, and still they give you permission to come and go. So you don't have the green card with advanced parole. So even if it's granted, I think the risk now is a little high until, and hopefully things settle down, which they may or may not. So I wouldn't go on advanced parole, even if you get it. Okay, but it is an individualized case, so contact me. I'll give you more specifics. And again, another type question, is this safe for green card holders to travel? As of now, yes. There should be no problem. But I would get a immigration attorney on call just in case. Okay, have your back. I would also, what I would do, I mean, this is kind of, something I do to help people, is I prepare a letter for them. And it's a nice letter, but it's certainly a legal one. And it shows why they have the ability to travel, why they have the legal ability to come back, why they're not inadmissible, why the officers at the port of entry don't have the legal right to detain them, all this other stuff. Okay? I mean, assuming they're not inadmissible or fall under one of the provisions that allows them to be detained. And then, if worse comes to worse and something happens, they gently show the letter to the officer. And not that it carries, absolute authority, but certainly if they know they're represented by an attorney and they have all these provisions stating why they can come in, it's helpful. Okay, and you might never have to use it, but, it's nice to have in your pocket just in case. Okay? All right. Let's see. Just a second. Someone who's married to a U.S. citizen has 2-month-old children but entered illegally years ago. Okay, this goes exactly to what we're talking about here. I mean, they have very young children, and I think you're asking, are the children going to be U.S. citizens or are they U.S. citizens? The answer is yes. If you're asking how this person might obtain status, it's possible, okay? It depends on various factors. They may have to do consulate processing with a waiver. So contact my office. It depends. Okay. Are there any avenues for a caretaker to? Are there any avenues to apply as a caretaker of a family member? I mean, there are, but those are difficult. Okay, there's all kinds of stuff you have to do. But one that I would jump on and say is the H-2B. Okay. The H-2B is a temporary type visa for various different reasons. So let's just say your family member fell down the stairs and broke their hip. Okay, I'm just using an example. And let's say the doctor says they're going to be incapacitated for 6 months and they're going to need all kinds of help. Well, the H-2B allows you to be petitioned to come in to be their caretaker for that amount of time for their recovery. It is temporary. Okay, so that's one way. Okay, you're welcome. All right, I think we've got to the end here. So that's the live for today. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. Everybody enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll be back on the next live. Thank you.